border wall funding battle. It's going to come to a head today. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that her party plans to vote today on a resolution to overturn the president's national emergency declaration. Watch.
This is not about politics. It's not about partisanship. It's about patriotism. We would be delinquent in our duties if we did not resist, we did not fight back and to overturn the president's declaration.
This coming as the Pentagon will reportedly move around funds to allocate $2.5 billion for border security. Joining me right now is retired four-star General, Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. And General, it's always a pleasure to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. So if they were to stop this national emergency declaration, they're going to put this measure up today. They're going to vote on it. It probably passes the House. It goes to the Senate. It could pass the Senate. The president will veto it. I know that. But will that jeopardize the Pentagon moving around money to get that $2.5 billion for the president to use for the border wall?
Well, I think the president would veto it, certainly, and also this thing is going to get tied up in the courts to some degree. The Pentagon actually has money in its budget to deal with barriers, not necessarily walls or fencing, you know, at the border. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to take the money that they have and do that with it. Also, we've been putting, obviously, soldiers down on the border, you know, to assist in surveillance, flying helicopters, moving people around, and also putting barriers there. That all costs some money. I mean, this issue is just amazing to me. The president has got a right, as the commander-in-chief, to protect this country's sovereignty, and that's what this is. I mean, let's face it, we don't have 11 million people, as people have been talking about for the last 10 years, that came into this country illegally. We've got close to 25 to 30 million people, and this year the crossings are clearly going to be up. All the president is really asking for is 200+ more miles of fencing. We have 700, some of that's going to be repaired. So at the end of the day, the Border Patrol is asking for only of a border that's almost 2,000 miles. They're only asking for close to 1,000 miles of fencing. They're recognizing that the other areas, they're going to depend on technology and Border Patrol personnel. And we're fighting over that small increment of 200+ miles of border fence when both houses, Democrats and Republicans, have approved the previous 700 miles.
Right. And it's really disingenuous to say that a wall is immoral when, in fact, you have a wall in your own state, as Nancy Pelosi does in California, which separates Tijuana from San Diego. So to say any wall, I guess they're just doing this to show resistance. They're just going to show, because we know that the president will veto it, and we don't know. Why would the Republicans in the Senate vote for this?
Why would they vote for it?
Yeah, why would they agree with the Democrats? Why are the Republicans in the Senate not behind the president?
Her proposal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them. I just know that, in my mind, it is a national security issue. It is protecting the sovereignty of the country. And I do believe the president is acting within his rights. I mean, that's arguable, certainly, and they'll go into the courts and they'll adjudicate it.
Yeah, I mean, Senator Lindsey Graham on Sunday said to me, look, President Trump as well as President Obama sent troops to the border. They were making a human you know, barrier there, and this is just making more of the barrier that's already in place. So we'll see what happens and whether or not it does, in fact, pass the House and Senate today. The president, of course, getting ready for these denuclearization talks with North Korea this week. Russian state TV, General, published its list of U.S. targets that North Korea would strike during a nuclear war. I mean, this is pretty, that Russia would strike, rather. This is pretty extraordinary. The list includes the Pentagon on this list. This is Russian state TV revealing potential U.S. nuclear targets. What's your reaction to this?
Well, first of all, every major city in the United States is targeted by Russian nuclear capability, and to include military targets. So what this is Russian bluster. It's one of their tactics that they always use to threaten escalation, to back an opponent down. And what this fundamentally is over medium-range ballistic missiles. And the reality is Russia has been building cruise missiles, land-based cruise missiles, in violation of the INF Treaty for years. And that is the reason we pulled out of the treaty, because our partner in the treaty is not compliant. And we asked them to come into compliance. They refused. So those missiles are obviously pointed at Europe, because that's the range that's permissible. And now we're going to deploy medium-range missiles ourselves, put them in Europe, and that's why this threat that's coming from Putin. Reagan was threatened by the Soviet Union over medium-range missiles. The Soviet Union deployed those missiles. What Reagan did is he tried to talk to them out of doing it. They wouldn't do it. So he deployed Army Pershing medium-range missiles. After he deployed them, the Russians came to the peace table, and that negotiated what is now the legendary INF treaty that the Russians are violating. The only way to deal with Russia on this issue is to stand up to them.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary that Russia continues to get involved in the European negotiations in terms of our friends in Europe, in the Middle East as well. Real quick, General, before you go, any thoughts on the upcoming summit between Kim Jong-un and the president?
Well, we haven't changed the objective, which is denuclearization, but we have changed the goals. We're no longer trying to do this in 2 years. We recognize it's going to be a step-by-step process.
Right.
We've got a very long way to go here. Something good will come out of this. It probably won't satisfy most people, but the reality is we're in a long process, and it's going to take some patience, and I think we will definitely make some tangible progress on this.
General, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Maria.
Jack Keane joining us there.